It's the Extremist Movie Debate. And tonight we're talking 2017's Wonder Woman.
I am Joe.
I'm Ethan. One of us is going to love it, one of us is going to hate it.
Let the coin decide their fate.
I hate it.
I love it. Hey guys, he basically just took meth. Don't snort a bunch of super meth and become a super soldier. There are spoilers ahead.
Perfect. Ethan, since you hate this movie, this first question comes to you. This comes from Christopher Orr of The Atlantic. Oh, Christy says, the final big action sequence, as now seems always to be the case, is a messy and overwrought CGI extravaganza. But at least the movie that precedes it involves actual characters, likable ones even, exhibiting recognizable human emotions. So what do you think makes the Wonder Woman portrayed in this film more likable and human than compared to any other superhero up to this point? You have 1 minute.
Look, nothing. The DC universe really struggles where the MCU succeeds, and that the MCU, every character for the most part is based off of a human that gets some sort of power, and whereas this movie is always based off or the DCMU, whatever you want to call it, they are DCCU. That's what it is. They're all based off of gods or aliens or some
ACLU.
shit, with the exception. Didn't say that, with the exception of Batman. And so, having a woman who starts out as a god, it's hard to relate to her. And so the best you can do is show her, this idyllic form of humanity, and then she has to come to learn some sort of depravity of humanity, which, great, the movie tries to do. But you sandwich that with, this perfect specimen of man, Chris Pine, and it does not work at all for this movie, because you just end up with characters that are so washed out in his presence. You've got, Scud from Trainspotting, who his whole persona is just Spud. He just doesn't want to shoot anybody in the moment, so instead he just plays the piano, and
Okay,
that's
thanks,
his
Ethan.
whole shtick. The other
Joe,
guy has an accent.
I'm sorry, Ethan, please. Be
And wears a
quiet.
fez.
Hey, relax,
It's
pal.
like Casablanca.
Hey, of all the webcasts in all the towns.
Fuck.
Joe, you have 30 seconds to respond.
It's difficult to respond because Ethan didn't actually make any sort of statement. He just yelled a bunch of buzzwords.
I said words.
And yelled stuff. Yeah, you just said a bunch of words. Essentially, I think also Ethan forgot about Thor and he forgot about Vision and the MCU.
I said for the most part.
Okay, so I guess you covered your bases there. Secondly, like you said, this is a movie about somebody who does not understand humanity, and she is coming to try to come to terms with it and understand it and be familiarized with herself with it.
Okay, I'm sorry, Joe. I have to cut you off there. Ethan, you have 50 seconds to respond.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we're going to show this movie about this perfect being that's coming to understand some sort of depravity about humanity. Isn't that just what we get out of Superman? Isn't that just what we get out of even fucking Suicide Squad? Like, every movie is about, oh no, people are bad. What are we going to do? And so to watch
Thanks, Ethan. Joe, you have a final 15 to respond.
No, because just like that masterful movie that we had recently watched, War Machine, this movie is about how generals are fighting the wars opposed to the soldiers. And it should be the soldiers fighting the war, and that's essentially what Wonder Woman says. That's what Diana says. It's like, you guys should be out there on the front lines doing your duty, but you're not.
Okay, thanks, Joe. I'm going to have to cut you off there. I'm sorry. But this next question...
It's okay.
I'm not really that sorry.
Sycophant.
This next question is for you, Joseph. This comes from Armand White of the National Review. Armand says...
Let me guess. Are his first words Zack Snyder?
Yep. So this is he's comparing this movie, who's by a new director in the...
Patty Jenkins.
Yeah, DCCU. Compared to
Zack Snyder didn't direct this?
I don't know. I think he was busy
Patty
making
Jenkins
You
of
wouldn't know
Monster.
it because it looks so much like a Zack Snyder movie.
He was making
He does visuals and action very well, so I think that's a compliment.
I think that's a detriment.
I did some research, and he was directing Sucker Punch 2, Still Suckerin'.
I don't think we should make fun of Zack Snyder at this time.
We really shouldn't. That's true.
Jeff?
Zack Snyder kind of sucks.
It's not my fault.
No. None of that.
I don't know what's going on. I haven't researched.
Terrible
Armand...
things happen to Zack Snyder and his family.
Oh, that's sad.
I'm sorry.
Our condolences.
Yeah.
Armand White says Zack Snyder's perspective is traded for woman warrior scenes in the Wonder Woman's homeland that replace 300-style sensual intensity with the near camp of butt-kicking female toughness. So there was a lot of backlash when this movie came out because it is a female director who her biggest thing to this point has been Monster. And then on top of that, the Alamo Drafthouse coming out and, you know, doing a women's only screening of the movie. So how do you...
2 showings out of the entire weekend.
It doesn't... I'm just saying what's been going on in the news. Yeah,
it's all a ploy to get this movie awesome press.
How do you feel about, A, having a strong female-driven movie, and then B, you know, theaters being open to having these screenings for like select female groups? You have 1 minute.
How do I feel about female-driven movies? I'm fine with that. And I think it's great. I think we should have more of them. In fact, we've had enough of shitty like men-driven movies. We might as well get some shitty women-driven movies. And on top of that, this is a good one. Like, and I think that's kind of the issue. Is like they're essentially making these female-driven movies with a female director. These tentpoles that if they fail, they are putting all of the weight on the fact that it's female-driven or it was directed by a woman. And I think that's a bad move, because there are plenty of male-driven movies that males directed that are shitty, but it's just like, well, they just didn't like this story. But they can't tend to say that. So it becomes iconic in the fact that just like a female leads it and a female directed it. So I think we should have more of them. And I don't think it's all that crazy, because like we had recently talked about, it's like Alien Covenant is a female-driven movie, and so are all of the fucking Alien movies, and those were back in the 70s. So these aren't things that are just like wildly new. It's just there's such a weight put upon them.
Okay, sorry, Joe, I have to cut you off there. Ethan, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I think it's important to not comment on Alamo Drafthouse, because that's just this movie getting awesome publicity. So the Alamo Drafthouse is a private business in this blessed America. They can do whatever they want. Hooray. You can comment on it. You can say it's good or bad. Wonderful. However, this movie, I believe, I can agree with you that this movie has put a lot of weight on, you know, can there be woman-centric movies in the future? And I agree that there have been a lot in the past. However, I think that it's important, if you're going to do that, to actually make a decent movie, which this movie fails to do. Again, this movie imitates 300, which is all...
Ethan, I have to cut you off there. You know what? I'm going to give you 15 more seconds to elaborate.
Asshole. So I think it's important that this movie emulates 300 so much, this hyper-masculine piece of shit. And, you know, the entire beach scene, the first action piece of this movie, is all just slow-mo 300, stabbing people, shooting people with arrows. And you want to be
Ethan. I'm sorry. Joe, you have 15 seconds to respond.
So the first act of this movie that's set in her homeland, or home island, takes only about 25 minutes. So it's a very small portion of this movie, and then it goes on to the more character-driven aspects of the movie that take place in the World War I.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ethan, you have a final 15 to respond.
Yeah, that's still like 25 minutes of this movie that takes place in that. And then besides that, when she's running into the field of battle, it still goes slow motion, Zack Snyder close-ups. Like, is she blocking machine gun fire with her shield, or is she blocking Doomsday's monster rays with her shield? It's pretty much the exact same shot.
Okay, I'm going to open up the floor for discussion here. You guys have 4 minutes to debate and go.
When people complain about Zack Snyder, they're not complaining about his visual style or how he does action, because
that's false.
He does action very, very well.
Also
that
false.
Is something that he is known for. So
yes.
the issue with Zack Snyder is he's not a great writer. He's not a great editor. He doesn't know how to funnel. He doesn't know how to funnel a story into something
and
that's
his
manageable.
action is one note.
It's not one note.
And it's also hyperbolic swinging dicks.
It's not one note, because he does slow motion, he does regular speed, and he does fast motion. So he does all of those.
Shit balls.
So no, he does it very well, because instead of like Hardcore Henry, which you loved, so instead of slapping a GoPro on somebody's you did. So instead of slapping a GoPro on somebody's helmet and having them roll around and not know what the fuck is going on, Zack Snyder knows how to slow things down to actually like emphasize the action when it's happening. And Patty Jenkins of Monster took that
Zack
lesson.
Snyder doesn't slow things down to show, oh, this cool thing is happening here. He does it to actually help the pace of the scene, because it can just shoot an entire scene. Fuck you.
Okay, so he does it very well. I mean, good try. Good college try. I can appreciate that you at least gave it an attempt. So he does action really well, because he knows how to frame things. He knows how to pace an action scene, because he takes an action sequence as like a mini story within itself. And he's actually telling a story through that action scene. And Patty Jenkins took that lead, and she also like carries it on in Wonder Woman. Like all of those, that No Man Land scene, I have seen people talking about that No Man Land scene for like all
Because it looked
weekend.
exactly
Because
like
they love
Doomsday.
it.
Yeah,
Who gives a shit?
I give a shit.
He does action really well.
No, he doesn't do action really well, and we're not talking about him. We're talking about Patty Jenkins. But if you're talking about Zack Snyder, which we can go ahead and do.
On top of that, so
Let's
here's
talk about
what Patty
how
Jenkins,
he makes an action
hold on,
scene,
we're not talking about
and he
that.
just
Ethan,
pauses it when a
Ethan.
shot looks cool, and all of a sudden somebody's filling up the frame,
Ethan, can I
pulling
ask
out
you a
their sword,
question?
ready to come
Can I
down,
ask you a quick
instead
question?
of like, oh, that was
Very
actually
quick-
well choreographed.
Very quick question, yes or no? Did Zack Snyder direct Wonder Woman?
No, you're the one who keeps bringing him up.
Patty Jenkins directed Wonder
you
Woman.
sure?
And the movie she did before this is Monster, and Monster won an Academy Award. Charlize Theron won an Academy Award for Best Actress because movie...
Christina Ricci saved it.
Ooh, I wouldn't go that far.
That's what everybody says.
The focal point of that movie is is one of the first female serial killers that just took over the nation, took over the news, and essentially she's taking
Painting
that
women
kind
in a
of,
bad light.
She's taking that kind of frame and she's taking that kind of focus on character and she's moving it to the superhero genre. And this is what we really fucking need, is because Wonder Woman is a flawed character because she's so perfect and because she doesn't understand. That makes her a flawed
Because she's
character.
naive. It's important.
Thank you, because she's naive.
Okay,
There's a
great.
naivete,
So she's
and
naive.
trying
Isn't that
figure
bad to
out-
show this movie that has such a powerful woman lead to be naive, to be childlike,
No,
to
because she
essentially
figures it out
be
at
a
the end.
little girl in a
Because
grown
she
woman's
figures it
body?
out at the
Just
end.
because she can kill people really well doesn't mean that she doesn't have the naive brain of a 9-year-old girl.
No, because she gets there at the end. She realizes exactly what the world
After
needs.
she
And
murders a
knows
man on a super meth.
Oh, well, he deserved to die. He was a...
Well, that's arguable. I mean, I would say the doctor maybe deserved to die, but I
both
mean,
of them.
who are
He
you to
was
be
the one-
Judge
he was-
Dredd?
Okay, so Houston, whatever the fuck his name is. Houston. So he was the one who was egging the doctor on to make more powerful gases. So he definitely deserved to die. He was the precursor to the Nazi party. He was essentially a Nazi and he needed to die.
Hashtag history fact.
Especially because he was on super meth. So thank God she took care of him. But in that moment when she killed the wrong person and her like naive nature led her to kill somebody that she was so sure of, that made her doubt herself. And that is good character growth. And this movie shows that great character growth as soon as she realizes that somebody she thought was on her side is actually Ares and she has to fight him now and her whole world is crumbling upon her and she like breaks her sword she thought
All right,
was
Joe,
the God killer.
I'm throwing in the towel on this one. What do you guys really feel?
I was watching the clock a little bit. It's really good.
It's good. It's fine. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Joe, is it good or is it fine?
No, I liked it, but I had my issues.
What
with
were
it.
your issues with it?
I thought all of the stuff in her home island, like, I feel like it was all necessary, but it all could have been done way quicker than 25 minutes. Like, it dragged on.
Crazily exposition heavy,
It
too.
did not. Yeah, that's the thing. If you're going to go that exposition heavy, just fucking throw a narrator in there, get it done in 5 minutes, and then move on to the like more intriguing, interesting stuff.
Yeah, they sit her down and read her a book. They animate the book for 5 minutes, and then they take her to a tower where all of the secret weapons hide because this is the night we tell you everything.
No, so I mean that was kind of my tell you everything except for the fact that this sword is worthless. So I mean,
Because it might not matter later.
so that was one issue with it that I had with it. Is just I thought that dragged on, and if it was going to go on that long, if it was going to go on for that long, I would have expected more from it. Robin Wright was good in that
No, she always
whole
is.
scene.
Yeah, she's great.
That whole bundle. And then what was the other thing that I had? Oh, it was like her being naive. It was almost to a fault. It was almost too much. Like, because those were all the funny moments. Like this movie, DC and Patty Jenkins have finally done it. They made a funny movie, or not a funny movie, but they put humor in a movie. Like even Nolan's Batman trilogy, like you're watching that and you can see where like that was supposed to be a joke, but nobody's laughing because it wasn't funny.
Does this come in black?
Exactly.
Yes.
Who said this is a car? Like, Clar. Like nobody laughed because everybody's just like,
I am now.
Yeah,
but it's
like the most unbelievable moment of The Dark Knight Rises is when him and Catwoman are on the roof and she disappears and goes, so that's what that feels like.
And that is the closest they got to actually like a joke that landed. But Wonder Woman, on the other hand, actually have jokes that land. But all of the jokes are all at the expense of her being naive and not understanding like cultural customs. Like she's in London and she doesn't understand stuff. And that's what's funny. And it seems like
Fish out of water.
Yeah, it seems like a couple of those make sense, but they went to so far with it. It's just like, this girl's
Yeah,
a
but
god.
they have to drill down the point, like, she's gonna murder this man in cold blood because she's so naive about what she believes.
Yeah, but I feel like you could have gotten to that moment without making her that naive and like the butt end of the joke. Like, she should have caught on. If she was a god who was that smart and could understand a concept that large, she should have caught on sooner.
Sure, but she only understands that concept because her mom read her a book once. And, like, that movie needs that moment because, the halfway point, it stops becoming a joke of the movie and it becomes, like, this is what she believes, and now she is learning about the depravity of man. And she's understanding that, Chris Pine's yelling at her, like, what if you kill this person and it doesn't end everything? What if he's just bad? Because some people are just bad. A lot of us are just bad. And that's, the kind of point of this movie is that we can all suck and we can all be good, and let's just work towards good. And I think that naivety drives that home to makes that actually land, which is actually what can I talk for a quick sec? What I love so much about this movie is we so incessantly bitch about every other movie not taking its time. We say, like, this movie would have been so good if it was 20 minutes longer, if they actually dealt with some of the characters and the themes a little bit more. Instead, they just rush through it and cut all the cool stuff out. This movie feels slow as balls at sometimes, and to its absolute benefit. Like, this movie is not afraid to spend 5 minutes of just people slow dancing in the snow while listening to Spud play the piano, whatever. And, there are moments in this movie that just really make you empathize with what the characters are going through, empathize with the situation that they're in, and what will ultimately come of this movie to actually make it hit home, where something like Batman v Superman is horribly gonna fail.
Yeah, everything you said. This movie is, like, that's what I've been telling people, is just, like, this movie is not as action oriented as I was expecting. Like, the action sets and sequences that are in it are really well done. There's just not a lot of them. They set out to make a war drama. And that's exactly what they did. They made a war drama. They made a war movie with a superhero to its benefit. Mm-hmm. Like, and when I say it's not as action oriented and it's slower than I was expecting, that's not a slight against the movie. Mm-hmm. I think that's to the benefit of the movie.
Absolutely, and the action scenes are great.
Exactly.
They are reminiscent of Snyder.
Because Zack Snyder knows how to shoot a fucking action scene.
But they're good. Yeah.
Say what you will about Zack Snyder.
All of the end of the stuff, which, you essentially have a god fighting a god in the end of this movie. Spoilers, which should be really stupid, but it's awesome to watch. It's a lot of fun to watch that fight scene, and somehow this movie pulls that off because it just builds up that anticipation so well up to that point, and it handles it. He's essentially just slowly, leisurely whisper fighting through half of that scene, and that makes it work. It's not, Doomsday just blowing down a building.
Yeah, and I think, most of the critiques I did find on this movie were just, people being like, oh, great, we need to make, like, female-driven superhero movies now. I don't like it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, so this movie is good, but you're just hating it for the wrong reasons at this point. Like, it's kind of bonkers how, like, well-received this movie is, and then every bad review is either like, I don't like CGI, or, well, why don't we have Superman in this movie helping too?
Well, I also
Furiosa got all the lines.
Yeah, I also want to say, like, just because we've seen, like, female-fronted movies like Mad Max, Fury Road, or the Alien franchise, does not mean I think there are enough. Like, I think we need more.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, just to clear that up because of how I answered prior. Like, I think we need more. We definitely need more. And, like, hopefully the studios are, like, becoming, like, privy to that with Alien and with this, like, Wonder Woman and with Furiosa. Like, make more of these fucking movies.
Yeah, before I ask you guys, what you rate the movie, I think the biggest, like, the best tweet I saw was a reviewer saying that the studio was taking a huge gamble by giving this virtually unknown female director, this much money for a movie. Like, this is a huge gamble the company is taking, but a response was, no, a huge gamble is greenlighting Suicide Squad before you were given a script. Right. And this movie is, like, demolishing Suicide Squad at this point. Like, that's amazing to me. Like,
well, I think also, like, this movie, like, proves that you don't just need, like, an iconic character. Like, you need a good movie and a good story behind that.
I know nothing about Wonder Woman, and I hated Thor. I hate gods and magic and all that dumb shit. This movie works.
Okay, well,
hold on. My favorite tweet was if you listen closely, every time Wonder Woman beats up a man, he's actually saying, actually.
So what do you guys rate this movie?
I'd give this movie an 8 out of 10. And a bit of thunder. Like, I thought about this movie all weekend. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
8 out of 10. A little bit of thunder.
I didn't
Still-
see it yet. I watched
you
Major
should.
Pain.
Enjoy.
Spoilers.
So, thank you for watching. You can go ahead and like and subscribe. You can comment below if you agree or disagree with us, but you can also comment below if you want to request a movie for us to do in the future. And then you can also write down a question you'd like us to do for that movie. Unpaid Intern Jeff will read it on the episode. We'll debate it, and there you go.
All right, well, thank you and good night.
Thanks.